Is it on? Counting the.
Cost of being a mom.
Very good. Okay, Vicky. So when did you become a mom?
Um, about 13 months ago. So my baby was born on the 11th of July, 2020.
So that was last year.
Yeah, yeah. So she's just older than a year now.
Wow, that's the perfect time for me to ask you questions because it was your last year.
Yeah. Oh, where do I start? Well, to summarize things is time flew unbelievably. So uh, basically when she was born, it was just an amazing experience to hold her. Um, to summarize, a child is like a in the beginning like a pot plant.
Uh huh.
So all they do is you just need to feed the child and make sure
Okay.
she's dry and everything like that. But at around like 3 months when she started smiling, that was when the rewards kind of start. So it's a lot of work and effort, but when she started giving back like with smiles, and now she's talking, so she started saying mama, and you can interact with her. That's when it becomes so rewarding.
Wow, that's awesome. So first 3 months, keep feeding, making sure everything is dry, and she's gonna start smiling in 3 months or more or so, and then it's thrilling to see her talking back to you.
Yeah, pretty much. So and then when at around 3 to by the time she starts like crawling, yeah, it's just unbelievable. Like you can see her grow and exploring the world. So it's like she develops like her own little personality. And yeah, now she started, like I said, she started talking back quite a bit, and yeah, showing that she wants to be independent. But
Wow,
yeah.
that's exciting. So did you plan on your pregnancy? Because for me, I got married almost 5 years ago, and then we didn't want
Yeah.
any child for the first 2 years of marriage, and then past 2 or 3 years we tried to have a child and it didn't happen. So I can relate to people that couldn't have a child even though they wanted one so badly. So how was your experience?
Oh yeah. It's always sad to hear, when people want to have children and, you struggle. We kind of had the similar journey. So we got married 6 years ago now.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, very
and
similar.
then yeah. And then straight after getting married, we moved to a different country, like so we're in New Zealand now.
Oh,
And
that's right.
yeah, so we wanted to settle in a bit first and provide security before starting a family. And yeah, we also tried for about maybe a year or so.
Okay.
And yes, she came a year after. So yeah, she was planned. Um, yeah, at that stage.
Oh,
I
I see.
mean, yeah, yeah.
I guess same thing happened to us in a sense. I mean, we didn't move anywhere, but I realized that if the baby had come along 3 years ago, we haven't been able to handle as well as we can now because we're more stable in terms of our emotional well-being and relational well-being. I think we can stress.
Mm,
I think we can cope with stress and conflicts better now because I don't want the baby to hear us talking angrily and bitterly and all these things, and we are becoming a lot better in our conflict management. So I guess it came at a perfect time. So you were trying to find security as you moved to a new country. So do you think also it helped you cope with your relational stability before the baby came, since it got a little bit delayed than you wanted?
Um, it's kind of a catch-22, I think. In our parents' generation, you just had children and, get it over with. And the interesting fact of that is, we grew up quite, quite normal, right? And honestly, in retrospect, I don't think there's ever a perfect time to have children, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
So, yeah, you go through different seasons in life, and what I found, especially when having Lisa, our baby, was, you get settled in your career, and there's always something more that you want to strive for, and yeah, so you'll never be, I almost want to say, you'll never be ready. And if you think like I thought also, I'm emotionally a little bit more mature, but what is quite well prominent is, when she's born, um, I think the longer you are without children, the harder it is to move all the focus away from yourself and move it towards your child, if that makes sense.
I think that's pretty true. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
Yes. So, but I mean, yeah, I'm older now, so I can say that quite easily.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think also when you're younger, your body bounces back quite easily as well.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's true. That's true.
yeah, yeah, it's always the pros and cons, eh?
Oh, that's true. That's true. I guess. I mean, some people have their children 4 months after they got married, or super soon, like that day or that month. But for some people, it takes 5 years, 10 years, 8 years, 3 years. So it's different challenges. As I guess there are different pros and cons. So
Hmm.
when you were contemplating on having a baby, did you guys decide as to how to raise a baby before the baby came out? How did you guys figure that out?
Oh, we're learning every day and compromising every day still. It's quite easy to talk things through before your baby is born, or before she starts challenging your authority. So our approach from the start was to always support each other, and if one person takes a certain approach, the other person just falls in and supports. And the reason for that is it creates a bit of consistency. And yeah, afterwards, like if like my husband doesn't feel like I've taken the correct approach, um, at when Lisa does something incorrect, so she started like climbing on the table lately, and yeah, I would react, and then my husband would later on, like when she went to bed, or when she goes to bed, yeah, we would just talk it through and just talk through how could we do it better and make sure it's consistent. So at this stage, yeah, we when I was pregnant, we planned like how we are going to do this whole thing, but yeah, it's kind of learning, you know, as she goes older. I think we're learning together and growing together.
Uh huh. So
Yeah.
I guess take one at a time as you go, and you keep fixing things.
Yeah, yeah. And also not, don't beat yourself up if you don't do things perfectly at the start, because I mean, you go to university to pursue a career, and then you think you have all this head knowledge at university. You go and study, you study hard, and then the first day of work, it's like, oh man, it's nothing like what I studied. Like, you have some knowledge to apply, and some basis, but yeah, the reality is you learn from experience, and that's how you grow.
That's very true. So, do you think you've done enough research, or do you feel like your experience betrayed your research?
um in what context is it? When she's now a bit older, or like when she was born?
uh, like when you're giving birth to a child, when you take care of her, when you raise her, like you read
Okay.
something in the book and you tried it, and did it work the way it was written, or did you find your own answers?
It's quite funny. Like, I can remember very diligently going to antenatal classes, my husband and I. We had it over the internet or because of obviously COVID lockdown. And yeah, I was quite involved in the conversations. And, they we talk through everything. I don't know if you went through antenatal classes, but they really go through like, what's the first 2 weeks of a baby going to look like? And they prepared us to say, the baby is going to sleep for 45 minutes to 2 hours. And then, you only have to take care of the baby an hour every 3 hours, because then when she wakes up, you have to feed her, change her nappy, play with her for like 10 minutes, and then she will go to bed again. Like that's the first 2 weeks. That's what they told us. So, yeah. And I thought, yes, great stuff. I'm prepared. I know exactly what I'm going to do. 2 hours is a lot of time. So, yeah, when she was born and we brought her home, she did not sleep at all.
Really?
Yes. So, if I can give you a bit of advice, is when she does sleep, sleep as well. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is.
Ah,
But yeah, but I mean, everyone's different, and different people have different experiences. But our experience was the amount of classes didn't really help us, to be honest. What it also does show, because you go through the process of labor and all that stuff, and what they teach you in the books is you have all these stages, but when you're going through the whole process, you kind of realize, goodness gracious, I'm not in control of anything, and you really have to rely on the nurses and the midwives and the people around you to actually make decisions for you. Yeah, and then also, with her growing up, yeah, you would read something here and there, and usually it doesn't work for us. And then, yeah, you just kind of, I almost want to say you wing it, but in the end, it works. Um, and you find each other's rhythms. Yeah, every child is different.
wow. So it's not going to happen the way you have been taught all the time. So you have to react the right way, and you need to ask other people for help, and they can guide you in making smart decisions. So you create your own cycle and create your own answers, I guess, as you go. So,
Definitely. And
mhm.
yeah, what you'll find as well is everyone has advice. And everyone has, and it's completely sometimes, contradictory. So, like your mother-in-law will say, you have to do something this way, and then, your mother will say, no, you have to do it completely the different way. And in the end, it's like, it's good to listen to advice, but in the end, it's about making your own decisions and what works for your family.
Wow, that's very true. You need to come up with your own boundary so you don't go insane. Actually, I now I have the questions that I've always had, and I'll answer one by one. I'm no, I will ask you one by one. So,
Okay.
in Korea, we have so many ultrasounds. I heard in America they do 3 times. In the UK, they usually do 5 times. In Korea, they usually do way more than 10 times. If I follow exactly what the doctor says, come this week, next week, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, next month, like, so more than 10 times a week when it comes to ultrasound. And somebody said that's
Wow.
too powerful for a baby's ear to handle in the womb. So we didn't go as many as doctors wanted us to come. So were you aware of this kind of thing, or how did you do that in terms of ultrasound?
Oh, goodness gracious. No, we definitely didn't go for 10. I know in South Africa, they do, I think, about 5 or 6. But they do cool ultrasounds like 3D scans. So it's more for the parents, for keepsakes. In New Zealand, they just do two ultrasounds.
Wow.
So they do a 13-week and a 19-week. And if all goes well, you don't go for an ultrasound again. I had to go for a third one, just because I was a bit overdue. Yeah, but that's it.
Oh,
Two.
I feel just
So,
so like deceived every time I interview other people because from other countries because in Korea they make it sound like I'm a horrible parent if I don't listen to the doctor. But the thing is, we're the only ones that are doing so many ultrasounds just way too many times.
wow. Well, if there's physically nothing wrong with a child, I don't see a reason why you have to go so many times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you make a decision? Like, can you choose not to go?
I think I can, but the way they say it almost sounds like it's a mandatory thing. And but if the baby
Hmm.
gets sick and we have to do something, and if you don't respond right away, all these like the most worst stories. They keep talking about it,
Hmm.
but I mean, we didn't listen to them completely. I think we went about 7 times, 6 times, or something. We really limit how many times we
Yeah.
actually visited for the ultrasound.
Yeah. Well, in from the New Zealand context, two ultrasounds to me was almost, for me it was not enough. Um,
Okay.
because like, and the reason for that is, yeah, I'm quite paranoid. So, sometimes, you feel the baby move, and then the next day it's like, oh no, I can't feel my baby move. So it's good to have that reassurance as well.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so in New Zealand, they really just, they rely more on the midwives. So we had weekly
Wow.
catch ups with the midwife, and they just kind of feel the movement and feel the baby. So I think that replaces the ultrasound.
Oh, that's so fascinating. Koreans, many people see me as a less civilized person when I say I'm gonna go to the birth center. I have a midwife. She has experienced that helping babies come out for so many years, more than 1,000 babies, but they still say you don't have a doctor. It's very dangerous for what you're doing. So you need to make sure everything is fine. Why don't you just go to the hospital? But I
Oh
want to
wow.
do the natural delivery without any medical intervention. So has been your experience with your midwife?
Oh, she was amazing, to be honest. Initially I thought, oh, to be honest, initially I thought like I don't really understand why I have to visit her so frequently, because all she did, she checked the baby, and um, so she didn't really do much for us. But goodness gracious, once yeah, when she delivered our baby, it was just amazing. She knew exactly what to do. I know I got quite a bit of, a bit discouraged after some time, and she really helped. And then also the follow up afterwards, goodness gracious. Because we're in a different country and we don't have family, um, she visited us every day for that first week to make sure like I was okay and baby was okay. So yeah, it was an unbelievable experience, to be honest, with her.
Wow, can you tell us a little bit about how your interaction with her was like in the first week? What kind of practical?
Yeah. So the practical side was making sure that the baby has enough food. Something that people don't tell you is, it's not, they call it, it's not like plug and play. So you think you're feeding the baby is sleeping, but sometimes, you don't produce enough milk, for example. So, she could see any challenges quite early on. So if the baby started losing weight, she picked up right away and just recommended, a bit of formula. But I think the most beneficial part was like the emotional encouragement. Um, just because, you're, especially when you're a first time parent and you don't really know what to do. And it's quite nice to have that person coming in, obviously making sure baby's okay, feeding well, and just, making sure your vitals are okay, but then also encouraging you and supporting you in the sense that, just a kind word. And always saying like, "Oh, you're doing a great job, keep it up." And yeah, so it works wonders, and yeah, we couldn't have really done it without her support.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So this midwife made sure you were feeding her well and the baby was growing and you get that emotional support. So how was the what was the deal like? Like was it some kind of contract? Okay, this long period of time you're gonna do this for me. And how did the contract work?
Oh, it's quite interesting. In New Zealand, it's not really a contract, but it's just kind of the way that the system works. So, when you first find out you're pregnant, you enroll at a midwife, and they look after you until the baby is about 6 weeks old. And
What?
so it's usually like, yeah, I know,
Wow.
it's freaking amazing.
Are you
So they
serious?
start
That's unbelievable.
yeah, don't you want to move to New Zealand now?
Oh, my friend talked about New Zealand like crazy. Yeah, look at the beautiful nature. You need to move there, move there.
The health system is incredible. So, like, just by the way, everything is free as well. So you don't pay for the service. It's
What?
all supported by the government here. They look after their um, like the family situation really well. So yeah, so you enroll at a midwife. So you choose the person that fits with you, and I was recommended her by one of my friends, and yeah, so you enroll with her. She looked after us until Lisa was 6 weeks old. So obviously, it's like she comes in every day until she feels that you are in control. Then she will move to every second day, and then every like once a week. And then at 6 weeks, um, the children gets transferred to something called Plunket, which is like a clinic or a nurse, pretty much. So then you visit the nurse like once a month, and they monitor how your child grows, and that's all free. So that's just the way the system works.
Wow, what you just said is just mind-boggling. I feel like I'm just dreaming right now. So you enroll with your midwife, and then she's gonna stay with you until 6 weeks, and you're gonna switch over to a nurse, and they're gonna keep taking care
Yeah,
of how things develop.
yeah. And only if there's complications, the midwife will stay with you though, but then there will be a gynecologist as well. So the midwife is kind of still in charge of you as like the pregnant mommy and yeah, the giving birth side. So yeah, they really take care like really well.
Wow, this is the
Yeah.
best system I've ever heard in my life. That's unbelievable. So, do you guys pay like crazy amount of tax to support all this system?
Yes. But I mean it healthcare for children up to 18 is free in New Zealand as well, and dental care. So I mean, I would happily pay taxes to
Wow, that's
to keep on
unbelievable.
receiving the benefits. Yeah.
0 to 18 years old, free health and dental care.
Yep.
So they encourage foreigners to immigrate to New Zealand.
If you have a scarce skill, definitely.
Oh, when you have a skill,
Yeah, they call it scarce skills. So
a scarce
if
skill.
if
Okay.
yeah, so if you go on their website and I'm kind of advertising, but no. So basically, they have a list of like skills, and yeah, if you manage to get a job here and become a resident, then yeah, then
Oh, if you can contribute to our
yes,
country
certainly.
economy, we're gonna have you come over and we're gonna become our citizen.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
pretty much.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So the whole country values midwife over Western medicine in terms of how you manage the baby? Or how does that work?
That's a good question. In my opinion and in my experience, they do value a midwife more. So a
Wow.
midwife is the primary go-to. Um, so yeah, they like the midwives are able to provide Western medicines, and you can get interventions. But I know in South Africa, you could get a C-section quite easily. You can actually request a C-section. In New Zealand, they don't or you can't request one, so it has to be a birthing complication in order to get one. So they go naturally first for everything, and it's the same like um, they have a huge breastfeeding campaign, for example. So they um, they
Wow.
really want everything to be as natural as possible, and then if intervention is required, then they will step in. But yeah, not really, not always.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds so amazing. Wow. I can't even breathe right now because when I say stuff like this about natural birth and I want to stay with my child, because in Korea, usually people go to a gynecologist and they say, okay, come this many times, and then even during the delivery, medical intervention is so prevalent, and which I don't really see as something completely positive. And then after that, people usually go to their postpartum care, and the husband and wife are separated. And I've seen somebody having a sibling um, ugliness going on because the older one would be deprived of the mother for 2 weeks, and husband and wife would be apart from each other for 2 weeks. The reason being the
Oh
mother should
no.
take care of herself, forgetting about the baby. Oh, the husband just relax for 2 weeks, and by the time they come back, they usually have a government assigned helper come into the house, and I was even recommended that you should have her sleep with the baby, and you and the mom just sleep comfortably because you don't want to be tired. So during the delivery, during the postpartum care, separation, 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 and they hold the information. They don't tell you everything because once I choose the natural delivery route, they're gonna lose money. So I've been just seeing this very sad reality, but people see this as a norm. What do you think about that?
That is very awkward. I can't imagine. In my personal opinion, I can't imagine, being 2 weeks without my husband. Because you kind of need that emotional support. In New Zealand, they encourage the support person, usually the husband, to stay with the wife in the hospital. Um, Obviously, and that's usually for your first child because obviously you're still new with things, and um, oh, it's just amazing. They have so many midwives coming in like every few hours just to check up on you, but they kind of give you your space. They don't interfere too much, only if you ask them to help. But they give you the environment for you and your husband to kind of figure things out. Um, I know usually for your second onwards children home and you just go after like the first day, I'm healthy, baby's healthy, I want to go home, they just discharge you and the midwife just comes and visits you. So yeah, also the husband gets 2 weeks parental leave as well to help out with the wife. So I think because we don't pay for like the services. They don't really go into that much depth, kind of to help, almost kind of taking over. So yeah, in my opinion, I wouldn't like in the Korean system. I don't think I would have been huh, honest without my husband
Oh
so
my.
long.
Oh my. Everything
So
everything that you say sounds like a textbook, like beyond the textbook. It's just so ideal. So during the delivery, was the husband with you the whole time? Or
yes, the whole time.
my brother was told by his wife and the health professional indirectly to stay away. He wasn't really encouraged to stay there.
Oh wow, no,
That's
it's like a
normal.
completely
That's
different
normal.
world.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Um, w- i- is your wife allowed another support person, like a mother or a sister, to be there?
I think I feel like when you step into the hospital, you become a complete I like just almost like an inanimate item on a conveyor belt where you have no voice. Okay,
Oh, I
follow the
see.
system and you're immature. We are the professionals. We're gonna take care of you. So the more
Yeah.
you step in, you're super in the way right now. So please just go somewhere else. Kind of pressure.
Oh, I see. Um, they encourage the partners or the support person to be there because that is their role, and that's why it goes through the antenatal classes as well. Is that person's role is to keep you calm, as much as possible during the process, because it is quite stressful. Um, and I think the reason why they do it that way is to limit the amount of medical intervention because if you're stressed, and you don't have someone familiar, I think it just adds to the stress. Um, yeah, so all I can say is all of the best.
But we're going to the birth centers, where a midwife will take care of us, and we're gonna do the natural delivery. So I'm going to
Oh, are you going to be there as well?
exactly, yeah, I'm gonna be there the whole time,
Oh, that's great.
and I'll be the postpartum care person. I don't really want any government worker to come in. We're just gonna have
Yeah,
the delivery service to keep feeding us or my mom, for a
yeah.
while. So how was your postpartum care like? You said midwife was with you the whole time, or
No, so she literally just came in once a day, maybe for half an hour, and just asked me how I was, weighed the baby, and yeah, just did a quick medical to just see if I was doing okay. But yeah, that's it. My postpartum carer was my husband,
wow,
so you know, yeah, and that's why you take or that's why they get parental leave in New Zealand. So your partner is expected to help.
you know what? In Korea, like, I mean, yes, you can take that vacation for 2 weeks, but the thing is, most Koreans wouldn't see that completely positive because somebody else will have to do your job. So, I guess you guys don't have
Yeah.
that kind of pressure over there. You don't feel bad that you're leaving.
No, they encourage you to leave, and if you go to work early, they actually think you're not a supportive husband. I think it's a little different, over here.
Okay.
So yeah, no, family is very important over here. So they talk about like a work-life balance, or that's how they advertise New Zealand as a country with a work-life balance. So they expect, when they're, yeah, especially when that first couple of weeks that the husband helps, he stays and helps. They in New Zealand, my experience is they expect women to stay or moms to stay at home for a year as well. Um, you get supported to stay at home for 6 months. So it's very, very traditional, I think, the way, the mindset of New Zealand. So very family focused. And yeah, I've never seen so many men that can actually cook in a country either. So
Wow.
yeah, my husband's still adjusting to that.
Wow. So, I mean, Chinese men also cook. My wife is a Chinese American. but I don't really cook. I just eat and clean. Wow, wipe.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, at least I do that. So did you learn how to change diapers from a midwife, or did you watch a YouTube video? How to burp the baby, all these things? How did you figure that out?
So antenatal classes kind of prepared you for that. So that's kind of similar to YouTube videos. Um, we did like the what do you call disposable diapers.
Okay.
So it's quite easy. So yeah, you don't really struggle too much with it. And what was quite nice, and I think that's where the midwife was also quite, helpful, is if we had any questions, like especially bathing a baby. She just recommended us like how to do it, or yeah, gave us some advice. But it's kind of, again, you can learn the basics from other people, but then you kind of do it the way you find is right. So some people, for example, put cream all over the baby's body, or some people put oil, some in the bath, and things like that. So it's like many things that doesn't really matter, kind of. So yeah, no, the basic stuff, the midwife usually would help you, or even your parents say.
Wow. So how many hours were the pre uh
Oh, the antenatal
antenatal,
class.
yeah, antenatal care, yeah, class
It was over 6 weeks, I think, and was like an hour or 2 hours
a week?
a session. Mm,
Okay.
mm. But it focused mainly on pretty much, the delivery side, and then that first 2 weeks after the baby's born.
Oh.
And I think, yeah, they encouraged us like to research how to put on a diaper and things like that. So that was, it's fun. And like they asked us for the one like to put a diaper on a teddy, like a cloth diaper or something.
Uh-huh.
So, or swaddle. That's another way, how you wrap the baby
Uh-huh.
before they sleep. So
Yeah.
yeah, so they showed us like swaddling methods to make the baby sleep comfortable. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
yeah, but it's stuff that you can get on YouTube quite easily.
Oh, I see. So I've been reading different things about being a parent, and ever since I realized I'm going to be a dad soon, I became a lot more kinder to my wife, and I was surprised to see myself changing even before the baby is here outside of her womb. So I noticed I was changing. And I also noticed a lot about having to be calm and self possessed when you are going to shape a human being into a certain image. So, how did you learn to have that emotional calmness and all these things in terms of your relationship with your husband and in staying gentle and nice and firm with your baby so far?
It's quite funny that you say that you've changed over time. I honestly never thought of myself being a mom before my baby was born, because I am quite a strict person. So in the work I do, I'm very black and white. So there's no middle ground. You're either right or you're wrong, and all hell is loose if you're wrong. So, and like it's like a type of police officer type of role. So that's the way I am. And even my husband says I'm a slave driver and I'm very strict, right? So um, I never thought that I would be able to show love and a lot of love and compassion. Um, and the weird thing was when Lisa was born, it's like, oh, it's like a trip switch, just switched completely. Like my whole life completely flipped around, and
Wow.
I now have all this love for this child,
Wow.
even if she's so naughty sometimes. And then she just smiles at me or just says mama or whatever, and then I just want to hug her and cuddle her. And my husband also, he said like he couldn't believe that that I changed like this because yeah, I was really scared that I wasn't able to yeah, to change. But honestly, I think we're kind of made that way, if that makes sense. So um, it doesn't really matter in what type of work environment you are or situation. That baby that comes out, it's a part of you, and you know, um, you just love that baby, and you don't really know why, but you just love that little, little boy or little girl. Um, so it makes it easier, I think, to show compassion. Where I do see sometimes, like where I struggle a little bit, is especially when now that she's a bit older and she starts to test us. Because you, it, oh, toddler stage, but no, it's like it's the cutest stage on earth because she runs around and plays with everything and she talks. Um, but sometimes she will try to, let's say, climb on the table, or she started drawing on the walls, but
Wow.
then she will take a pen, and we don't want her to take a pen because she's gonna get hurt with a pen, and we want to give her a crayon instead. And she just goes all wild if we tell her that, and she screams, and she um so I think that's the biggest challenge, to stay calm in that, because if you go and I think that's where logic comes in as well, because um, children or babies especially, they don't want to be naughty and they don't want to make a scene. If they cry, they're genuinely upset and they just don't know how to manage their emotions. So if you kind of remember that every time that this, she throws a tantrum, or she's quite challenged at that stage, or challenging at that stage, it's kind of just taking that step back and remembering, look, she doesn't have that development at this stage. She doesn't know what she needs. She knows what she wants. And, just be calm. And, when she has finished crying, offer her a hug. And that's kind of, I, I think that's what, like, oh, sometimes I'm stubborn as well, and that's sometimes what I need as well. I just throw all my toys out of the cot. But, just having that person on the other side when I am done screaming and crying and, throwing my tantrum, just going and saying, I love you, I still love you. And yeah, and that's kind of being that calm voice. So I think I went on a tangent, but to answer your question, is just, understanding that it's, yeah, she's a baby. She doesn't understand what she's doing, you know, and she's genuinely not trying to upset you. She really is maybe in discomfort or in pain, or yeah, she just doesn't understand.
Wow, that's beautiful because sometimes I feel like when I overwhelm my students with the amount of love, they surrender, and whatever you said sounded like it. You don't want to go down to their level and become crazy as they are. You want to be superior in your ability to be able to control your feelings.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's kind of our life lesson as well. In the end, you know, you can't learn to manage your emotions if someone doesn't teach you how to manage your emotions. And yeah, compassion and love is more powerful than just screaming back at someone, because in the end, it's about someone. Well, you have to raise your daughter knowing that she's loved and knowing that she's worth something, you know. And if you scream at her, how is she gonna feel like she's worth anything?
That's very true. Well, thank you so much, Vicky. We had a lot of things in common. You have a daughter. I want to have a daughter. I married
Woohoo!
6 years ago. I married 5 years ago. We waited 1 year. I waited 2 or 3 more years, and then we're in this journey together. So, and I felt like
Yeah.
became. I felt like I'm still normal when I listened to your story of how people in New Zealand are doing things very differently than how we do here in Korea. So I feel so comforted knowing that somebody is doing it right.
But all I can say is it's going to be an amazing journey. And
Sure,
yeah, you and your wife you're going to be awesome parents
sure.
and all of the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that assurance. I didn't
Oh,
have that, but
that's-
I want to believe that I'll I'll make it happen somehow. Thank you,
so all,
Vicky.
thanks, Jua.
Hope I can catch up with you a few years later, and I'll probably ask you more questions about how she's doing.
Oh, definitely. But we'll keep in touch. Post
Sure,
some photos, eh?
sure. I'll do that.
Alrighty.
Have a good
Take
evening,
care.
Vicky.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye. That was amazing, guys. That was just crazy. How do I stop this?